everyone. My name is Miss Giovanna, and I am going to be going over lesson 2 with all of you. Lesson 2 is called Healthy Relationships. So, as usual, you'll start seeing that for the most part, every lesson will start with the video. So that's where we're going to start off today. Watching this video, and then we'll try to have a conversation, or maybe I'll try to put some ideas in your head about what was happening in the video so you can kind of think about what it is that we saw. Okay.
Nice. Don't you think this is nice, babe?
Oh my gosh, what?
I want us to be closer.
What? We're with each other all the time. I'm constantly over at your house. What do you mean closer?
You know what I mean. I need you to love me more.
Okay. So just a few takeaways from this first half of the video. We saw there's a couple here, obviously, and from what we saw, it seems like they are both trying to tell each other that they love spending time with each other, but maybe their love language, if you will, isn't the same, right? So the one in the green shirt is more saying like, we're always together, like, how else can I show you that I love you if we're always together? And the one in blue is more so, it sounds like she's asking for a lot, but maybe the thing is that they don't really know how to communicate their own love languages, right? Or their own needs in their relationship. So as we go through the lesson, hopefully we see that things kind of turn around and they have better communication. So what are today's learning objectives? So we are going to identify the 3 components of love, identify 8 types of intimacy, identify non-sexual ways to achieve intimacy, and identify the qualities of a healthy relationship, okay? Oh, one more. Assess your own relationship skills. And what is today's evidence of achievement? You participated in the lesson activities, you completed the lesson worksheets, you are committed to healthy relationships with others. Obviously, we're not in person, so we can't be doing the activities with you all, but under your Google Classrooms in lesson 2, you will find that there are 6 different activities or worksheets that we would like you all to do, and that is how you show your evidence of achievement. So, what is love? That is the big question, right? Love can be defined differently by different people, and some people show love differently than others, right? We don't all show love the same way. So let's go over what the 3 dimensions of love are. So you have passion. So a strong physical or emotional attraction, intimacy, a closeness and familiarity with someone, and then you have commitment, a long-term interest in and loyalty to someone. So thinking of these as these dimensions can create a loving relationship, right? Because you would want there to be a strong emotional or physical attraction if you're in a loving relationship. You would want closeness and familiarity with someone, right? You wouldn't be in a loving relationship with somebody you don't really know. Commitment, a long-term interest in and loyalty to someone. So if you're in a relationship, whether that is a friendship or a love interest or romantic relationship, you're in it long-term, right? So it's not just, I'm going to be with you for like 2 weeks and then we're good to go. And like I mentioned, with all of these, it can be not only romantic relationships, it can be in friendships, it can be in relationship with a family member, right? Because all of these can fall into those different relationships that we have in our lives. So what aspects of love are reflected in the following relationships? So let's give you some examples. Having a close friend, that could fall maybe under commitment, right? If you have a close friend, It's a long-term interest, loyalty to a person. That's your friend. Falling in love. Maybe that can be passionate, right? It can be the dimension of passion because there's an emotional attraction and maybe also a physical attraction, right? And maybe also if we want to add one more, intimacy, right? When you're falling in love, you're close with that person and you're familiar with that person as well. Loving a parent or family member. That can fall under all three dimensions of love, right? Because you have a strong physical or emotional attraction to somebody because, you know, that's your family, you love them. And when we're talking about physical, it can be like, you know, you hug your parents, you know, you hold your niece's hand, things like that. Intimacy, right? When you're loving a parent or family member, it's that closeness, familiarity because they're a part of your family. And then commitment. Ideally, right, with family, it's a long-term interest. We're with them for the long run, right? Loving a spouse or life partner. Again, it can be all three because there's emotional or physical attraction, there's closeness and familiarity, and there's a long-term interest, loyalty to that person, right? So let's go over the question, what does I love you really mean? It can mean different things to different people. So let's go back to the example of the video in the beginning, right? Maybe the one girl who was wearing the blue top, maybe she was trying to say I love you and she just didn't really know how. So maybe her partner didn't know how to express that either. So it kind of goes again to the question, like, what does love really mean? How do we express something if we maybe don't know what it means, right? So let's go over some stereotypes. This is one of your worksheets, actually. What are some stereotypes of how males and females view love? Is it possible that two people are meaning very different things when they say to each other, I love you, right? So if you can go ahead and fill that worksheet out, and then that way we can get your participation for this specific activity. So what is intimacy? Intimacy, a lot of the times we have this perception that intimacy is where you have to be physical with somebody, but intimacy can be a lot of different things, right? It can maybe be private, personal, maybe it has to do something with clothing, right? And to some people, it can also be that you're sexually active, right? You're having sex with people or a partner. So let's go over the different types of intimacy, okay? There is emotional intimacy, which is identifying, sharing feelings. Physical intimacy, touching one another. Intellectual intimacy, sharing knowledge and ideas. Recreational intimacy, sharing activities or sports. Spiritual intimacy, exploring the meaning and purpose of life. Work intimacy, developing familiarity by working on a task together. Crisis intimacy, experiencing and overcoming a challenge together. And the last one, conflict intimacy, working through a difference of opinion. So again, keeping in mind that when people hear the word intimacy, I feel like most people jump to one thing, which is, physical intimacy, so touching one another. But intimacy can come in all these different ways, right? There's more than one type of way to be close to somebody, which intimate with ultimately is, getting close to somebody. And there's different ways of doing that isn't necessarily, physical or sexual intimacy. So what types of intimacy do these activities achieve? So again, with this, we're not in person to be able to do this activity with you all, but there is a worksheet again in the Google Classrooms that you can do on the different types of intimacy. And what we're basically asking you is we give you a statement, and then based off of the different intimacies that we just went over, you pick which one you think goes best with the statement, okay? So the example they give here is, what type is a sexual relationship? So it can be physical intimacy, right? Emotional intimacy, spiritual and crisis intimacy, right? And put crisis in here because, as explained in the previous slide, a crisis or being intimate with somebody in a crisis is experiencing and overcoming a challenge together. So crisis intimacy could be maybe it's your partner's first time and your first time. So you're overcoming, the challenge of not really knowing how everything is supposed to be played out. So it's just one example. Spiritual intimacy, maybe again exploring the meaning and purpose of life, right? So sexual relationships can be spiritual in the sense that, maybe when two people are sexually active, they are trying to recreate life, and that for them is something spiritual, right? Trying to find the meaning of life maybe for them is creating a new life. So again, sexual relationships isn't only physical intimacy, it can fall under different ones. So what is a healthy relationship? A healthy relationship can be fun, honest, trusting, helpful, right? It could also be forgiving, commitment, flexible, and having common values, right? Can be important to a healthy relationship as well. So what we're going to have you do is do some self-reflection and do the worksheet on your Google Classroom that is called Rate Yourself. And this is just kind of for you to see whether you feel you have these characteristics or skills. And again, it's just a self-reflection. And on the worksheet, you will only have the columns to fill out for yourself. Here on the screen, you have in case you wanted to have that conversation with either a parent or, an adult or a friend in your life. You could ask them to see if, they have those characteristics and skills as well. Okay. So let's see what happens in the second half of the video. Oops, sorry about that.
I have no idea what you mean. You know I love you. My other friends get mad that I spend all my time with you. What am I supposed to do so you believe me?
I know we're together a lot, but cuddling on the couch and making out just isn't enough.
I don't know what else I can do to show you I care.
What about asking me how I'm doing? Telling me your feelings? You're always on the phone or watching TV.
Okay, we can talk more if that's what you mean.
Yes, I want us to be real with each other. So what do you want? Be honest.
Well, maybe I need my space sometimes to do my own thing, Listen to music, kick it with my other friends, whatever.
Okay. Sometimes it freaks me out a little because I can't tell if you're mad at me or just need space. But I think I get it. Maybe with more space, the times we do hang out will be more special, right?
Totally.
Okay.
Okay, so in the second half, it seemed like they were having more of an open communication, right? So while as the first video, it was more like, I need this, I need this, I need this, without an explanation and having the other partner confused. In this video, we see both of them being completely honest and open with their communication, right? One is explaining their feelings, their thoughts, as well as the other partner, and they're asking questions, right? I always say that the best relationships are the ones with open communication, because if you're not having that communication, your partner doesn't know what you're thinking unless you tell them, right? They can't read your mind. So always making sure you're having that open communication and you're talking to your partner. And as we can see here, right, they agreed that, okay, they would have some space apart from each other so that they can cherish more when they are together. And they also figured out what each other's love language is in a way, right? So one of them wants a little bit more space because they want to be their own independent person, while the other person is just letting them know as well, you know, like, I don't just want to physically be hanging out, I want to emotionally, right? Talking about the different types of intimacy, I want to emotionally be connected to you. So happy ending for this video, right? Based off of what I was talking about right now, you can go ahead and fill out the worksheet for what happened in the second part of the video. So I went over this already. So let's do a quick quiz. So again, the quiz is on your Google Classrooms, which you can write down the answers right now as we're going along and then just go in and fill in the questions. It'll make it a lot faster, or you can do it however you'd like. But let's go over this quiz. So the first question is, love involves passions, commitment, and or intimacy. And the answer is true, right? Going on a long walk or discussing a personal problem can build intimacy with another person. The answer is also true for this one, right? You're sharing some time and communicating. Intimacy with another person can only be achieved by having sexual intercourse. False. Okay, remember we talked about the different types of intimacy: emotional, physical, intellectual, recreational, spiritual, work, crisis, and conflict. So intimacy is not achieved by having sexual intercourse only. Characteristics of a healthy relationship include communication, forgiveness, flexibility, and understanding. And this one is true. Okay. So in this part right here is where you would be doing your reflection for lesson 2. And answering the question, what is the most important or interesting thing you learned in today's lesson? How committed are you to building close relationships? And some food for thought: if you want to have this conversation with a parent or a trusted adult, ask them to describe a meaningful relationship they had when they were younger, right? Maybe it was with their parents, maybe it was with their sibling, with a friend, and just kind of opening that line of communication as to what healthy and meaningful relationships look like. So with that being said, I believe we are done with today's lesson. Please, again, go ahead and fill out all the worksheets for lesson 2, and I will see you again for the next lesson. Thanks.